Krystal Princess. The Krystal Princess and the Grand Contest by Joanne Barkan, illustrated by Dubin. High above the clouds, in a faraway land, lived Princess Krystal Springtime, with other beautiful crystal princesses in a splendid castle. Princess Krystal Springtime loved the spring season best of all. One year, she waited and waited for spring to come. "What's wrong this year?" she asked. "The weather is still chilly, and there are no flowers." "I'll tell you what's wrong," said the princess's wise tutor. "The mountain genie and the valley wizard are having a squabble. They are so busy arguing that they've forgotten to make spring." "How awful!" the princess exclaimed. "I will go to see them both right away." The princess hurried to the home of the mountain genie. Along the way, tiny magic crystals fell from her long hair and delicate hands, but the crystals didn't turn into flowers as they had in other years. Instead, each one hit the cold, hard ground with a sharp ping. Princess Krystal Springtime found the mountain genie writing a long letter. "Excuse me, genie," she whispered, "but isn't it time to bring spring to all the mountains?" "Humph!" muttered the genie. "I'm too busy right now. I've been insulted. That foolish old valley wizard says that his valleys have always been more beautiful in spring than my mountains. So I'm writing a letter that will prove he is wrong." The princess tried to reason with the genie, but he refused to listen. The princess rushed down the mountain to the home of the valley wizard. She knocked on the door. "I'm too busy to talk," said the wizard as he swung open the door. "I'm making posters that will prove to everyone that my valleys have always been more beautiful in springtime than the genie's mountains." The princess politely asked the wizard to begin the spring, but he shook his head and shut the door. "What can be done?" the princess asked her friends over and over again. Princess Krystal Ballerinas and Princess Krystal Stars just stared at Princess Krystal Springtime. No one had an answer. Princess Krystal Springtime paced back and forth. "Suppose winter lasts forever? We won't have grass or flowers or singing birds. The farmers won't be able to plant their fields." That night, the princess couldn't sleep. She spent hour after hour worrying about the spring. But just as the sun rose, she had an idea. As quickly as she could, the princess sent messengers over the mountains and across the valleys to announce a grand contest. "Hear ye!" shouted the messengers. "Princess Krystal Springtime is holding a contest to see who can create the most beautiful spring scenes." Both the mountain genie and the valley wizard entered the spring contest, just as the princess guessed they would. Each was to present his spring scene on a different day. Princess Krystal fairies and all the other crystal princesses were asked to judge the spring scene. The castle carpenters immediately began building a large viewing stand for the judges. On the first day of the contest, the mountain genie stood before the judges. Stand and proclaimed, "I present to you, crystal princesses, my spring scene." Then he waved a wand in the air. "Ah!" gasped Princess Crystal Magic. "How beautiful!" exclaimed the other judges. Yellow and white daffodils blanketed the slopes. Forsythia bloomed on every ledge. The mountain shimmered in the sunlight like a golden treasure. The following day, the valley wizard stood before the judges, waved his wand, and proclaimed, "O princesses, I revealed to you my spring scene." "Oh my!" gasped the judges. "Magnificent!" All the fields of the valleys were covered with purple, orange, and deep red crocuses. Under the sun they sparkled like a million precious jewels. "Is it really possible to choose a winner?" asked Princess Crystal Hearts. "The mountains are gorgeous," said Princess Crystal Butterflies. "And the valleys are incredible," said Princess Crystal Diamonds. "How can we decide between them?" they all asked. Then Princess Crystal Springtime spoke up. "The contest is not over," she said. "Tomorrow I'm going to present my own spring scene." That evening, Princess Crystal Springtime's tutor knocked on her bedroom door. "My dear," she said gently, "we're all worried about you. How can someone so young enter a contest with powerful genies and wizards? We're afraid that you will fail and your feelings will be hurt." Princess Crystal Springtime nodded. "I'm afraid too," she said, "but I must try. It's the only way to end this silly squabble and begin spring." The next morning, Princess Crystal Springtime stood in front of the judges' stand. She said quietly, "I present to you a new spring scene. Something never ever tried before today." She turned and tossed out a handful of crystals. They showered down on the mountains and valleys. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then, all the princesses began to clap excitingly. In the valleys and on the mountains, hundreds of apple and cherry trees were covered with pink and white blossoms as thick as heavy snow. "How perfectly lovely!" said the princesses. "Attention, please!" shouted the genie. "I have something to say," called the wizard. The genie went on. "I declare Princess Crystal Springtime to be the winner." "No! I declare her to be the winner," the wizard interrupted. Everyone agreed that the princess had created the most beautiful spring scene. "Since I'm the winner," said the princess, "I think you should grant my request. I'd like all of us to work together to make the spring each year." So from then on, the daffodils, crocuses, and forsythia always bloomed in early spring, and the apple and cherry trees were covered with blossoms. And if the genie or the wizard grumbled, the Princess Krystal Springtime just pretended not to hear. The end.